With no time to waste, welcome again if you just joined us. This is the Super Morning Show on ELBC Radio. And on this first segment of Embracing Our Guests on the program, we have Mr. Monie Captan, Chief Executive Officer, Millennium Challenge Account. He's our guest right here. And this discussion about the Millennium Challenge Account will take us up to 9 o'clock this morning. For those of you who are listening, the opportunity will also be given you to form part of the program, just in case you wish to. Mr. Monie Captan, good morning and welcome to ELBC, and this is the Super Morning Show.
Good morning, Prince. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Okay, how are you? It's been a very long time. I haven't really seen you.
I'm around.
You are around?
Yes.
Very busy?
Well, yes.
Very busy. Doing what? Working for Liberia?
Yes, working for the development of Liberia.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, today you find yourself in the private sector, right?
No, we're not in the private
You're not
sector.
in the private
No.
sector? Still.
The Millennium Challenge Account is an agency of the Government of Liberia,
Okay.
and it has responsibility to implement the grant provided by the U.S. Millennium Challenge Corporation of $256 million. So that grant has several components, and we have the principal responsibility on behalf of the Government of Liberia to ensure that it's implemented according to the agreement between the United States government and that of the Liberian government.
Okay, so you an attachment of government.
Yes.
I remember some years back when you were foreign minister, right? You were foreign minister. That was the many years ago. You know, during the administration of former President Charles Taylor. I don't know whether you are a shy person, but a lot of people really talk about you. I mean, they spoke good things about you, and really wanted to see you, but you were not always in the public glare. Why?
Well, I'm not a shy person. I think the more appropriate word would be a professional person. And so I pursue a professional career, and I stick to it, and I try to do the best that I can in whatever assignment that I have, and make my contribution in a quiet way.
Okay, let's go deeply now into this institution. Institution that you had, the Millennium Challenge Account. Tell us, what is it all about?
Well, as you recall, in early 2015, in January to be specific, the United States government and the Liberian government signed a grant agreement.
Mm-hmm.
That grant agreement provided the amount of $256 million for development projects in Liberia. And so part of that agreement provided for an agency that would be what we call an accountable entity. That agency's sole responsibility is to ensure that the grant agreement is implemented according to the terms and conditions. And so that is where Millennium Challenge Account comes in.
Mm-hmm.
We are an agency created by an act of the Liberian Legislature. We have a limited lifespan. Our lifespan is up to the end of the compact, which is January 2021. And so if you do your math, we're halfway into the compact, and we have roughly about 2.5 years remaining to implement the remaining aspects of the compact.
Okay, as we all talk about the development of Liberia, tell us what has your institution done, in terms of helping in the developmental work of this country, with especially this pro government?
Well, the whole purpose of the compact is to reduce poverty. That's the ultimate objective.
To reduce poverty.
To reduce poverty. Now, the logic that MCC uses is that we must first begin by stimulating economic growth. If you don't stimulate economic growth, you cannot create opportunities for income generation. So the logic, therefore, is to stimulate economic growth. When you stimulate economic growth, it creates opportunities for income generation, incling employment.
How do you go about stimulating economic growth?
Let me do the logic,
Okay.
then I'll come back to that.
Okay, no problem.
So once we stimulate economic growth, there's more And that basically means that there's investment into the economy. Once there's investment into the economy, it creates opportunities for job and income generation. Once you can put income in the hands of the average person, it empowers them to address their basic needs. Therefore, you have money to send your children to school. You have money to seek medical attention. You have income to repair your house, for instance. You have income to do various things. That helps you to reduce your own state of poverty. Now, how do we get there? The Millennium Challenge Corporation required every country that seeks a compact grant to undergo an economic constraints analysis. What that means is that we have to do a complete analysis and survey of the Liberian economy, and the purpose is to determine what is the constraint to investment, what is constraining investment in our economy that will stimulate growth. Once we determine that, then the compact funds are geared towards addressing those constraints. So yes, we did do an economic constraints analysis. The results were released in September of 2013. And in that study analysis, we found out that the two binding constraints to economic growth in Liberia were, one, the availability of affordable and reliable electricity in Liberia, and the second were just the access to road transport infrastructure network. So roads were was the second. So there were two basic constraints. With that report, and let me say that that analysis was done through a prescriptive method that was given to us by MCC. So we didn't just go on our own doing things any way we wanted to. A model was presented to us from Harvard Kennedy School, and we had to follow that model and do the analysis. It had to be peer reviewed and vetted. So we had it peer reviewed by IMF, World Bank, several institutions before it was accepted by the US government. And from that, we then went ahead to develop programs around electricity and roads. And so the compact specifically addresses those two constraints. It cannot address it 100%, but we work towards addressing what we feel are some of the key components of those constraints. And that is why the compact is specifically geared towards addressing the question of electricity and the question of roads.
Okay, talking about the availability of electricity in Liberia, which I think is of essence to government and its citizens. Let's talk about some specific interventions under the compact relative to the Mount Coffee Hydro Plant rehabilitation. What are the benefits for the rehabilitation of the hydro?
Yes.
What benefits do we get?
Well, first, let me give a little background into the hydro project.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, the government took over this project and asked donors to assist with it. So three donors came on board initially. It was the German Development Bank, the Government of Norway, and the European Investment Bank. And of course, the Government of Liberia being the fourth partner to undertake this rehabilitation. The agreement signed between the four parties indicated that the Government of Liberia would pay 20% of the cost plus any additional cost of the project, because they had budgeted the compact at the Mount Coffee rehabilitation at the time to about 250 million. So with Ebola, the government found out that they could not meet their 20% commitment, and there were huge overruns because of delays in the project. There were other issues involved. So MCC decided that one of the first things we do under the compact is take over the government's commitments under this arrangement for Mount Coffee. So we take the 20% and any cost overrun. That actually ended up being the largest component of the cost of the Mount Coffee, meaning that MCC paid for 40% of the cost of Mount Coffee, to a tune of about $140 million. That's something the government of Liberia would not have been able to do. And without the compact, we would not have Mount Coffee available today. So one of the things that the Mount Coffee project has done, because of new technology, the capacity of Mount Coffee was increased from 66 megawatts to 88 megawatts. So that's a substantial increase in the installed capacity of Mount Coffee. Secondly, as you know, Mount Coffee is a hydro power plant, so it's renewable energy. That drops the cost of electricity significantly. So imagine we started at a rate of 54 cents per kilowatt hour. Today we're down to 35 cents per kilowatt hour. And we continue to reduce the tariff on electricity, and the intent is to make it affordable and to make it accessible. So coming from 54 cents to 35 cents, we're looking at somewhere like 35% decrease. That's additional money that small businesses can use to invest in other activities and rather put it into electricity cost. And there is a study going on right now which is called cost of service study. That study will determine exactly what it costs to produce electricity in Liberia and how much we can sell it for. And I think once that is done, then LEC and the government will decide how much further to reduce the cost of electricity in Liberia. But that intervention was specifically to bring the cost of electricity down, to make it affordable for Liberians, and to provide a source of generation that was based on renewable energy.
Can we say currently that electricity is now affordable? I mean, just anybody in Liberia, or anyone for that matter, even the least person, can afford it. The tariff being levied on electricity.
I think it's still high. We can make some progress in bringing it down further, but it's good to know that someone can go and take a recharge card and put $5 on it. And
how long does it take you for?
Well, it depends on what your consumption is. That's the good thing about it. It makes us energy conscious from the very beginning. If you're going to use a microwave oven or you're going to use a pressing iron, of course, it's going to eat up the units. But if you're going to use just light bulbs and your fan and television, of course, it will last longer. But I think that the thing is we're making it accessible, and I think that's key. Now, one thing I should say is that the 88 megawatts generated by Mount Coffee, only 30 megawatts of that is being used. So we have an incredible excess of electricity available. Now, why are we not using the 88 megawatts? That is because the government is still rolling out the transmission and distribution network. That means getting connections to the homes, getting connections to businesses. That require investment in light poles, investment in wires, investment in transformers, investment in meters, connectors, and all of the various things that you need to build a network. That's happening currently, but that's not MCC part of the contribution to the compact. The contribution was, let's get the generation system in place. That's our first contribution. Mm-hmm. We do have other contributions. Our second contribution, which is something that is aligned with all the rest of the donors, was to ensure that LEC had the proper management in place, because the donor community has invested somewhere around $600 million into LEC assets in terms of transmission and distribution, in terms of generation and equipment and so forth. Now, the concern was, how do we manage and sustain all of this investment that's put into one public corporation? So MCC and other donors agreed, and the government of Liberia principally, that the way to go would be to bring in a management service contractor, which was brought in for a period of 3 years. And let me say that half of the half year has already gone. So we have 2.5 years remaining on the management service contract. And that contractor has a principal responsibility to turn LEC around and make it a viable public corporation, train Liberians to take over the company within 3 years. So we've gone about 5 to 6 months. We have roughly 2.5 years remaining for this company to achieve that, to turn it around and have it ready to turn over to Liberians to manage. And so part of their responsibilities was to make the company financially viable, reduce losses. Let me say that out of all of the electricity that's produced today in Liberia through LEC, half of it is stolen. Half of the electricity is gone to power theft. And because this 50% is being stolen, it has to be added into the cost. So when you pay 35 cents for a kilowatt hour of electricity, you are paying for the ones that are being stolen as well. It's built into the cost.
Okay.
So until we bring the power theft rate down, it will continue to hinder the capacity of LEC to reduce the tariff. And that is why I think there needs to be a very strong public awareness about the impact of power theft directly on tariff, because it's built into the cost. And so we can have half of the people enjoying free electricity and the other half paying for it. And that situation is not fair. It needs to be addressed.
So what do you think LDC management can do? That is, what methodology do you think they can employ in order to reduce power theft? Because I just don't want to say stop, bring an end to power theft.
I think the key comes to prosecution. How do we get the legal system to cooperate with the corporation to address this problem? And let me be the first to admit that a lot of the problem comes from LEC employees, because I don't think the ordinary person can climb on a light pole and connect someone illegally.
So they are the one involved?
Well, they are among those involved. There are former employees that are involved. There are other people. The thing is, if you arrest one of them, what success rate do you have in that punishment going through? Or do they walk out free the next day? And this is what tends to happen. So the legal system really has to be strong enough. The prosecutorial functions of government has to come into play, and people have to be afraid to do this. And LEC is just one of the examples of theft of public services. Take, for instance, water and sewer. I had a meeting yesterday with the MD, and he told me that their power theft rate their losses is at 78%.
Wow.
So only 22% of what they put out in terms of water into the system is all that they get, they can account for and get paid for.
So it means when it comes to developing Liberia, transforming Liberia, making Liberia a better place, we are our own problem, because we are causing the problem for ourselves.
Yes, I think
instead of helping government, we are breaking things down.
Yeah, we break things down and then we criticize the government. That's the worst part of it. It's like someone throwing trash in the street and then complaining that the government is not cleaning the streets. That's the kind of situation you have.
Okay, we are aware that under the compact and the energy sector support, the MCAL is building the LEC training center. How does that hold in the manpower development of the Liberia Electricity Corporation?
Yes, as you are aware, a lot of the very skilled staff at LEC at retirement age, some of them died during the war. We've had a generation that have not been trained. So we don't really have the skilled manpower adequately in Liberia to address the problem of the human capacity needs in Liberia. And let's not only look at it at LEC from the standpoint of those who work in LEC.
Mm-hmm.
But when LEC brings a line and connects a house, what about the guy you hire to wire your house? If he's not trained and he does a bad job, that's a fire immediately. So we have to train people from where LEC ends and where the outside begins throughout the entire country. So the idea of building this training center is to build the capacity of LEC staff, those who will be potential employees of LEC, but we also have a program to link the training center to BWI. So at the level of the technical vocational training institutions, we have a link between the two so that we're training not only for LEC, but also for the electricity sector as a whole. This is going to be a modern, state-of-the-art training center with all of the equipment. We will have a yard there where people can do simulations of going on a pole, connecting transformers and so forth. So it's going to be a proper program. The center will be equipped. They will have a curriculum. We're doing curriculum development for them. We're doing training of trainers so that those who will teach will be trained. There will be manuals, training manuals developed and so forth. So it's going to be I think something that's really we've never had in Liberia before. And I'm so excited about it because I can see the day where people might be coming from Sierra Leone, Guinea and other countries to even study and learn at that training center.
That's good news. Tell us, when do we expect this to begin?
We're already in the procurement process.
Uh-huh.
There is an assessment being done right now on the ground. We've identified the site for the training center. It would be at Bush Road Island. And the feasibility studies, the designs are being worked on right now. And we expect that we'll start procurement before the end of this year. And we give it somewhere about 18 months to have it constructed and ready. So definitely within the next 2 years, we should have that training center up and ready.
Well, if you just joined us, this is the Super Morning Show, and Mr. Monie Captan, Chief Executive Officer of the Millennium Challenge Account, is our guest of the program for today. That will take us up to 9 o'clock. And for those of you who are listening, will also be given the opportunity to form part of the program. Mr. Captan, do you have any plans relative to building a customer service center for the LDC and also electrifying service markets in Monrovia?
Yes, we do. One of the things that we will be doing is building a pilot customer service center. If you if you need service from LEC, you have to go waterside. Just the access is prohibitive. Getting to waterside for people who live in Painesville, for people who live in Gardnersville.
Just one site?
Yeah, that's one site. That's all LEC has. There's nowhere else.
No substation?
No, I mean a service center where where you're going to go and ask for service.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't even have a telephone system. So when you call, there's one person.
No telephone.
So imagine a service center that operates like that. So one of the things we're doing is we plan to build a customer service center. We've already put up the procurement. We started the procurement process to have it designed, and we want to build a service center somewhere along the Painesville corridor area between Painesville and the Kakata corridor. And the intent is to have a second point where customers can go. We have a big enough waiting center. They will have a telephone system where they can route several calls at the same time. We train customer service agents and we help them put into place procedures. That should be a pilot. When that works well, hopefully LEC can add additional customer service centers around. In addition to that, we're going to go waterside. And that current center that's there, we're going to rehabilitate it, fix it up. And one of the things is missing. If you're a customer, just imagine you come from Painesville, you go to waterside. You're there for 4, 5, 6 hours trying to get service, and you need to use the bathroom. That's not even a bathroom facility. Those are things that we're adding to the customer service.
And sometimes you get there to receive service. Yeah. People don't even attend to you.
Exactly.
They don't even listen to you.
Yeah. So all of that.
Customer service.
Yeah. So we have a very keen interest because you cannot make LEC viable if it's not catering to customer needs, because that's where your revenue is coming from. Your revenue comes from the customers. And I think we don't need to argue about the logic that the more customers you have, the more money you make.
Definitely.
Okay, and so LEC should be getting out there trying to get people on the grid, connecting people so they can make money. Currently, LEC has over 500 employees. Most of the income they receive goes towards paying just payroll. They don't have money left over to even talk about doing connections, and this is why it's totally donor dependent. And that's why we have to turn LEC around and make it viable, because they're selling a product that everybody wants. So in terms of a business case, it should not be any rocket science that what is required to be done. You also asked me about electrifying markets.
Sure.
One of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that there's access to electricity. If you go into a market hall in the rainy season, it's pitch dark. And then in the evenings, people can work an extra hour or two or even do other activities in the market. So one of the things we're trying to do is identify close-in markets that we can electrify and make sure that it's well lit for security purposes, for people to work a little later if they want, 1-2 extra hours if they want to have, for instance, evening classes for adult literacy. It's available in the rainy season when it's dark in there and people can't use the hall. They can use it, and generally people tend to go outside of the market because it's also dark. So we hope to make that intervention and have at least 3 major markets in town. We have them lit up.
Okay, lots of issues to still talk about before going to the telephone lines in order to begin taking our calls. But can we just talk about the water pipeline project? How is it connected to the energy project?
Yes, that pipeline existed before the war, but it's been damaged. And the reason that pipeline was installed was the dam we have on the St. Paul River. Whenever you close the gates, the water from the Atlantic Ocean comes into the St. Paul River and brings with it a lot of salt. And so the water that is being pumped into the water treatment plant, it has a high level of salt content that goes in the water treatment plant whenever the gates are closed. So to mitigate that impact of that environmental impact, we decided to put back the pipeline. So the pipeline will be a pipe that will come from behind the dam straight to the water treatment plant. When that is installed, then when the gates are closed and there's salt in the St. Paul River, we take water from behind the dam, which is fresh water, and then it goes into the municipal water treatment plant. And the good thing about that is this is going to work through gravity, so we don't need electricity, we don't need pumps. You open a valve and the water flows straight into the water treatment plant. And that is the whole purpose of having this water treatment plant, this pipeline put in.
Okay, let's now divert and shift a bit. This time we go to roads.
Yes.
What does the road project consist of?
Our road project is focused on maintenance.
Maintenance.
And the logic behind that is that you can keep building roads, but if you are not maintaining it, you're wasting money. So the idea is, what can we do to ensure that the roads that we have now are being maintained? Imagine you have a house and the roof is leaking, the plumbing doesn't work, nothing works, and you decide to go build another house. The same thing happens, and you build another house, and the same. So the secret is, let's start first with maintaining what we have properly before we go on to build new roads, because those new roads are going to be are not going to be maintained, and then we have the same problem. So our focus is on maintenance, and hopefully that contribution we make towards maintenance will make the new roads that are built sound investments. And so our project basically is geared towards both technical assistance in helping the government through Ministry of Public Works develop a national road maintenance plan that is based on data that's collected and analyzed from the field. So we have done a survey on traffic study to see all of the roads, how many cars are traveling on them, what's the traffic volume, to know the level of wear and tear and what kind of maintenance is required. We're also doing an asset inventory of all road assets in the country. All of the roads, bridges, we're putting them into a database. We'll have the specification, we'll have the surface condition. All of that feed into a software called SGM4. SGM4 is a tool that's used by road maintenance people to basically develop a road maintenance plan. And with that, we have already trained 13 people from the Ministry of Public Works. They're all trained in using that software. Their data is being collected. They're developing that National Road Maintenance Plan. And that would be funded by the road fund that the government has created through an act of the National Legislature. That road fund basically will impose a levy on road users, whether it's for gasoline or toll or whatever. It goes into that account, and then it's used to fund the maintenance of roads. The compact provides a matching fund of 1-to-1 up to $50 million to get the road fund going. So the first $50 million that hit that road fund account, we will be matching it with the same amount. And then it builds the seed money to get this going. And the hope is that there will be continuity in this road fund, so that our roads are maintained on a regular basis on a standardized plan, and not where we have a situation where 1 year there's $1 million available for road maintenance, the next year no money in the budget, the next year that kind of thing, and our roads are never maintained. So we can standardize this both in terms of the maintenance plan, both in terms of funding. Then I think we have a good start on road maintenance. And that way, with something like this now, and we expect that road maintenance fund should generate quite a substantial amount of money. Imagine if you're doing 25 cents on a gallon of gasoline. That's substantial. You're talking about millions of dollars. And that should go a long way. And we should not have a problem accessing the different parts of our country. It should become an easy thing. And so all of the money that the government is now planning to invest in new roads, that plan should incorporate them into the maintenance, okay, so that we can maintain it. That is basically our contribution towards the road. We could go and build a road of a couple of kilometers, and then after 2 or 3 rainy seasons, it's gone. That's not sustainable. Cannot match those funds until it's available.
Until the funds are available.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the telephone line and to speak with our first caller on the line. Good morning. Yeah. Good morning. What's your name? Okay, Maxwell. Go ahead.
But you know, for all black business would look at for so well, or to act upon things that have problems. It is in terms of good things. I want to urge him so that he can put some force or some, vigorous steps towards power tech. It's causing a serious problem for me. I'm on the current and this task. But please, it's no kind of man that money for your meter is gone. we're not just paying for those who are pretty current. They need to also maintain the place to sell the policy to those people who are involved in such acts. Yeah, they maybe do what to, or I don't think that they can do that. They see the terror to as well. You're not just something like that about it, and you don't take any action. Keep on doing it. 50%. Thank you. And we blame it. We blame that. We get this thing, put the money in the currency in the space sector. Thank you for.
Okay, thank you so much for your input on the program. This is the Super Morning Show. Call us on 0776 089 713 and be a part of the program. This caller is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ture.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning to your student. My name is Ojuku Oboswa Ojuku. I listened to your student in so excellently. He made my day. And I believe with this people agenda, Liberia is about to get on the path of development, and Liberia is about to go back to the days of normal days where we will continue to enjoy electricity in our country. And the issue that has to do with electricity, I think, is very much important. And the issue that has to do with the customer service in our rural community, and this, I think, is very much important because the customers are catching hard and difficulties to get to the LEC authority whenever the experience them of breakdown. And more often the storm will come and sometimes the pool will drop, and we don't find the LEC authority coming on to their course speedily. So we pray and hope that when the customer service is established, it will also help our people. So pray and want to wish your still get success in our endeavor, that they will continue their good work to make our country a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ojuku. Call us on 0776. Our guest is taking note, and just after we get you with the calls, we will get back to him to respond to some of these comments made. Call us on 0776 089 713 and 0880514096 and be a part of the Super Morning Show, and it's right here on ELBC radio. You know, sometimes we can encounter a problem with our main lines, and so for those of you who are listening and want to form part of the program, I give you this alternative number, and that's 0777 549989. Again, 0777 549989 is the alternative number, just in case you are finding it so difficult to get through to our main lines. And the main lines are 0776 089 713 and 0880 514096. Let's go to this line and talk to this caller. Hello. Hello, welcome to the Super Money Show.
I want to thank you for the studio guest and also the studio and each plan that the government is putting in place. We pray that the funding be available and the funding be used in the right direction. And those that will be trained, let them take that blood at hand, because it's the nation that we have in the like blood.
Okay, Pastor, you gotta keep praying for this country, more especially for the people of this country. Yeah, we gotta preserve what we have, not to destroy it. Good morning. Yeah, good morning. Your name? Okay, go ahead, Johnson. You were a lucky man. Okay, thank you too for your contribution. He's taking note, and he will definitely respond to your inquiries. Call us and be a part of the program. Please drop the line. Trying to connect someone else. Okay, this caller is now on the line. Good morning. Yes, this is the Super Morning Show. Go ahead. Thank you. Another caller. We'll take at least 3 more calls and then go back to our studio guests to respond. Good morning. Hello? Hello? Go ahead. This is Prince Tule. Okay.
Mr. Captan, I listen to you clearly concerning the road maintenance. I think that is now a major problem in this country in terms of sustainability. Sustainability are there. Very serious problem. People will build road, people will build structure. At the end of the day, they don't have preparation to maintaining enough. That area will be diminished. Now, second to that, the LEC. Mr. Captan, my problem I've had with the LEC over the years is that the LEC disconnected what they call political current. What do I mean by that?
What?
The LEC political current is a current that you take to a community that is populated for votes over the last.
No, man. No, man. You can't say that about LEC. What you call political current? Is there anything called political current? Let's go by and talk to at least 2 more callers and then go back to our studio guests. Good morning.
My name is Monie, and I joined you this morning for my conference this mistake. And Captain, let me appreciate you so very much this morning for taking the bold step and providing enlightenment and education this morning for the populace. You see, and especially I want to speak quickly to the issue of maintenance. You see, pretty straight, and this is where we have a serious problem when it comes to maintenance in Liberia. That is a serious problem. I think we need to adapt that to get overcome because we cannot be spending taxpayer money to construct roads and get on such development. Since we don't have the second thought to maintain these properties because there is a need that will put marketing into place. Because if you maintain things, at least you'll be able to save up on wasteful spending. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. And I think that's all for the calls. And so we now go over to Mr. Monie Captan to respond to the inquiries and some of the comments made.
Thank you, Prince. I think most of these were comments. I don't recall a specific question, but I'd like to pick up on a point that was made by the gentleman from Thinkers Village. I think he makes a very, very important point, and I hope we all take it seriously, that the community has to be involved, and it's a two-way street. Both the institutions providing those services and the community that's receiving the services. If there isn't a partnership between the two for the sustainability and effectiveness of those services, we're not going to get them. And I think this should be a key underlying principle of development, where those who are benefiting from the development projects are an integral part of the projects themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think if we can start to do that, have more stakeholder engagement, more community engagement in all of the projects we do, I think we'll see that there's not only we'll be surprised at the level that the community will go to support the undertakings of government. So I hope that those who are listening out there at the two corporations, and I just want to make a point here, and that is that I'm not speaking for LEC. LEC is a separate entity from the Millennium Challenge account. We are providing support to LEC, but we are not LEC. And that leads me to a question that was asked by Johnson Jacob from Caldwell about the electrification of the Caldwell community. All I can say to him is that I'm quite aware that that project will be implemented. If there is any delay, it might be just planning delayed. It might be waiting for new materials to arrive. But he can be sure that the first project is already funded by the World Bank. The money is there, and there's no reason why it will not be implemented soon. Lastly, I'd like to just pick up on the point that Maxwell made about power theft. And I think it's not only about LEC putting into place a mechanism, it's a two-way street. You can have the best mechanism to curtail power theft, but if you get the culprits to the legal system, and the legal system cannot address those issues, then you have a problem. So if you have people engaged in power theft, just walking away from the court every day with impunity and nothing happening, you take someone to a police station, you need to be sure that the process is going to work its way through, where that person is charged, where that person goes to court, where that person pays the penalty for theft. And so I think, and it's not just power theft, in the whole judicial system, it's a problem we have. And I hope that we can strengthen the judicial system to help address some of these services. But again, it comes back, I think if the community can do something about it, it can even be a more stronger force than even the judicial system. So I just want to say at this point that I think the value of any development is the engagement and involvement of the people that are supposed to benefit from the development. That's the whole objective, that's the whole purpose of development, to improve the situation of our people, to improve the situation of the ordinary person. So if you don't engage them and they're not engaged, how do you ensure that they are true beneficiaries of whatever you're doing?
Okay, very shortly we'll be wrapping up, but let me ask you this final question. And from my own experience about this LEC, I think they haven't really been proactive in terms of solving problems. Take for instance, if I have a problem with my meter and then I call the LEC, it would take me months to have them come in order to solve that problem.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think a lot of people face that problem. I know people who face that problem. I think there are several reasons why. One of it, of course, we have talked about, and that's the quality of customer service. It's not responsive enough. There are also bigger problems. There are problems with regard to resources. Imagine LEC has over 50-something thousand customers. If 1,000 of those customers decide to call you in one day, imagine the amount of resources you have to mobilize to respond. So resources are critical for LEC to be responsive. As I talk to you now, I think LEC has probably 3 trucks that can mount on the poles, those what they call the truck buckets or bucket trucks or whatever. They have 3. So imagine one in Ghana's, one in Central Monrovia, and one in Cinco. And you have an emergency in Beansville or emergency in Bushra Island. What do you do? So we have to equip it. But the problem I've just said to you, over the years, LEC has accumulated over 500 and something employees. How do you go now at this stage to say, let's reduce the number of employees? Then we have a backlash. So it's one of those situations I think that has to be managed carefully. But yes, LEC has a problem. It doesn't have meters. And that's a problem that's being worked on right now. It's on the top of the agenda that this issue has to be resolved as quickly as possible. It requires money. In the dry season, when Mount Coffee was not really functional, LEC had to spend a lot of its money buying fuel to run the generators at Bushra. Now that we're coming into the rainy season, Mount Coffee is taken over and it's reduced that burden. So hopefully the new management company can put into place policies and procedures and build capacity of the corporation so that when they're leaving in 2.5 years from now, LEC can be a revamped company that we Liberians can manage and be proud of.
Okay, finally. One of my colleagues, who is Moses Gaza, who just sent me this text message, though you are not a public works minister, but he's concerned about the dual community road.
Well, I have no knowledge of
No
that.
knowledge. Okay, but can you outline some of the challenges relative to the implementation of the compact?
Yes, I think we have. It's time. You know, as I said to you, the compact ends in 2021 January, so we don't even count 21. Let's just say 2020, and we have to implement this project. And any money that's not spent remains with the U.S. federal government.
Wow.
Yes. So sometimes ministries that we interact with do not see the importance of the time constraints that we work under. So you ask for information, there are conditions we have to meet, there are delays, you have to run behind people, projects are delayed, and I think that's the biggest challenge. Sometimes just the availability of information. You might need certain data, you might need certain information, it's not available. And you can't move beyond that because the compact, although we have all these projects we're supposed to undertake, there are conditions. The U.S. government has put conditions on the release of these funds. Now, I just want to make one point clear. When we say $256 million grant, it's not money the U.S. government has taken and put into a bank account in Liberia that we control. That money sits in the U.S. Treasury Department. Only when we have had a job done, we write them and then they pay the contractor directly.
Wow.
Yes, that's how it works. So that money is not sitting here. We don't hold it. We're not sitting on it. So if we don't spend that money, by the time the compact is over, we cannot request those funds beyond January 2021. So I had to make telephone calls to ministers, to agencies of government, trying to implore them to take seriously the time limits that we have to work within, and that we need to spend this money. It will be a disgrace to Liberia, to the Liberian people, if we have to end up at a situation where there are millions and millions of dollars sitting in the U.S. Treasury Department that we did not have the capacity to expend.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Mr. Monie Captan. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Millennium Challenge Account. Thanks for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Prince. It was my pleasure.
And it's always a pleasure having you here. Well, let's take a break. This is the Super Morning Show on EL.